that everybody who voted for the BNP in Barking and Dagenham or Stoke-on-Trent or anywhere else is a hideous and irretrievable fascist and racist. They are not. They are people who didn't see where else they could go. And that's the message that we have to make. And the fact is that schools at the heart of their community and those of us who work in them are people who need to get that message out consistently. We need to make sure that educational achievement and social and economic regeneration go together. We work very closely with John Cruddas. I hope I'll be able to speak to him this afternoon, and I'm delighted that we managed to have that success. But it is only by those policies that actually attack those kinds of disadvantage in which people find themselves that we really will be able to build the kinds of communities we want and have the kind of future that we want. Democracy, social justice and sustainability. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Christine, and all our speakers. So, we're in opposition. Tell me what's new. Compass has always been in opposition. Opposition to the privatisation of Royal Mail, opposition to tuition fees, to Trident replacement, to ID cards, to illegitimate wars, and to the erosion of civil liberties. And we will always be in opposition to the rich getting richer so that the poor get poorer, to the planet burning and our democracy being diminished. Opposition must be a permanent state of mind for any democratic left. So must be the notion of being in power. On the steps of Downing Street on the 2nd of May 1997, Tony Blair said this of Labour in opposition. He said, "It could only say, it could not do." Tony Blair, you were wrong. You mistook being in office for having the ability to transform society. We can always do. Just ask Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, the suffragettes, and today, London citizens. None of them held office when they tried to change the world, and they did change the world. Power is a state of mind. It's not about minding the state. Compass, we will always be in opposition, and we will always be in power. As ever, I'd like to say some really heartfelt and sincere thanks as we gather at our annual conference. To our 4,500 members, our growing number of members who put their hands into their pockets to pay for their politics, who vote with us, who contribute to us, and who care about us, and who make Compass the powerful and legitimate force it is. To the 40,000 people who are now on our email list, who campaign with us and again support us. To the hundreds of people who volunteer for us, the academics, the experts and the campaigners who make everything we do possible. And I would just like to say a special thanks to the Friedrich Ebert Foundation, in particular to Karl-Heinz Spiegel, not just for the sponsorship today and the other events that you help us with, the kind of European network that we're building across the continent, but for being a comrade and supporting us and believing in what we do. And finally, I'd just like to thank our members of staff. We only have 4 members of staff at Compass. 3 of them are very special. Zoe and Joe are brilliant, young, tireless campaigners who work all day, every day for Compass. And Gavin is the rock on which Compass is built. The 3 of you are an absolute joy to work with. Thank you for all you do for me and this organisation and what we believe in. Now, where are we? We fought an election in which we did terribly, but we could have done a lot better. Compass put out a document just before the election called Winning on the Doorstep. It contained a whole number of policy ideas to make Britain a more equal, greener and democratic world. And on each issue we polled. Breaking up the banks, 68%. Proportional representation, 65%. A living wage, 58%. No replacement of Trident, 63%. A tax on junk mail, 78%. Replacing a tuition fees with graduate tax 52%, a high pay commission 65%, closing the gender pay gap 88%, renationalisation of the railways 70%, a ban on advertising to children 73%, the introduction of a Robin Hood tax 53%, a cap on interest rates on unsecured credit supported by 89% of the population. That wasn't a poll of Compass members, that was a poll of the country. We could have done so much better in this election, but we didn't. And we have to understand why. Because now we face a coalition, a centre-right coalition, that we underestimate at our peril. Between them, they have 18 million votes. We have 9 million votes. We face a Labour Party that at every moment of big crisis, 1929 and 1979, they retreat back to orthodoxy. We have a welfare state for the rich and a CBI that demands the public sector bear the brunt of a crisis caused by the rich. We have a fiscal deficit because we have a democratic deficit. Bankers who are literally out of control. And we have some politicians still pointing their finger at immigrants when they should be pointing their finger at capitalists. I tell you, we don't have an immigration problem, we have a neoliberal problem, a problem of flexible labour markets that allow cowboy employers to undercut other cowboy employers, the most vulnerable scrambling for jobs, housing and decent public services because taxes have been too low for too long. This is not about class. Sorry, this is not about colour, it's about class. It's about vested interest and it is about who wins and who loses. So we have much to put right, and we can only put it right if we recognise the scale of the problem that we face. When we only understand the depths of the hole we are in, will we know how high we have to climb. 1983, the real start of the new Labour project, the party got 28% of the vote. 2010, the end of the new Labour project. The party got 29% of the vote. What did we do in between? We did some good things that we can all be proud of. The minimum wage, Sure Start, devolution, Northern Ireland. You have your list. You know what you are proud of. And you know, too, your list of the terrible things that Labour government did. To me, in that relatively short space of time, the issue is not the balance between the good and the bad. We're pragmatic people. We know that change takes a long time. We don't expect miracles. What we do expect, and we should expect, is that over that time we make our project stronger, so that when we get turned out of government, our party is bigger, our alliances are stronger, the trade unions are stronger, that a progressive movement in civil society is stronger, and that public values like views on redistribution have changed. And the answer to all of those questions is that none of those are stronger. That is the problem of the last 13 years, that we did not build a progressive movement. Sweden, like Rome, was not built in one day, or one term, or three, but over decades. It will take time, but we have to build properly and strongly. The task before us, to build our version, the British version of Sweden. I did a radio interview yesterday on Radio Wales with a Blairite journalist called John Rentoul, and he raised Sweden, and he denied the existence of Sweden. He said it was a Compass dream. I'm sure there are people here from Wales. Let me tell you that Sweden does exist. It is not a dream, and it is a better place, and we can create something like it in our own way over time if we build a movement. As the branch is bent, so the tree is inclined. Which brings us to the big issue of the day. The race has started. I look forward to more contests like the one that we will have later today, and I will have no illusions about who wins. Of course, that's enough about the England World Cup team. What about the Labour leadership race? Look, I think there are some clever minds and some good hearts standing, but we understand the game now. The safe thing in government is to say nothing. The safe thing in opposition is to say everything. It's never easy saying the difficult thing when it's difficult. Robin Cook,